Jacob Zuma resigned as president of the Southern African nation after facing a motion of no confidence in February 2018. A former Deputy Minister Mcebisi Jonas says he rejected a $44 million bribe and blew the whistle on Zuma. Mr. Jonas is now an advisor to President Cyril Ramaphosa and has written a book about his eyewitness account, which he calls The State Capture. He joins me right here in the studio. Mr. Jonas, welcome to VOA and Africa 54.
Thank you very much.
Now, let's start with you learning about Zuma's corruption. When did you learn about Zuma's corruption scandal and what did you do?
Look, I mean, it was apparent, it was sitting in Treasury, it was apparent that something was amiss, both in the levels of expenditure as well as, I think, the costing of different items. And I think the bribery attempt was probably the last straw in the thing, and we went out and announced that has happened.
So would you share with us who was offering the bribe and what was it supposed to be in exchange for?
It was the family that was practically in charge of South Africa, the Gupta family, and the attempt was to say, if you take the bribe, we'll make you Minister of Finance, and if you're Minister of Finance, you'll have to do everything that we tell you to do.
But they were not the president. The president formed the government. That would be the one mandated to give you a position as a minister, right?
That was my response, essentially. But of course, I mean, if you listen to the Judicial Commission and what's coming out of there, it's clear that they were pretty much powerful.
So how well did you know the Guptas?
Not at all.
You did not know them at all?
Not at all.
But they came to you and offered 44 million.
Yes.
All right, so now you are an advisor to President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Yes.
And we have seen a couple of issues, including the one we just talked about the South African Airways, going on strike because of funding issues. And we've seen a couple of strikes. Of course, we've seen even xenophobic attacks and a lot of people complaining about joblessness. Now, as an advisor to the current president, what are some of the key components that you think would be very vital in revamping South Africa's economy?
Look, in the first instance, I think like any developing country, the state is important. And of course, part of the work that we are doing and government is doing is to try to rehabilitate the state after the devastation caused by corruption and state capture. Bring back the integrity and credibility of the state and strengthen institutions and ensure that you deploy within and appoint within institutions more capable leaders and people so that they can start implementing an economic reform program. That's in the first instance. The second instance, of course, is that private sector is crucial for driving growth and development in a context like South Africa. If it is not dynamic, you're unlikely to get the benefits of growth and employment and, for that matter, reduction of inequality. So the second thing is improving the relations between government and the private sector and actually creating a better investment environment in the country. Again, we've just held an investment conference and the relationship between government and private sector has improved quite substantially.
All right. Now, very quickly, what do you want to read us to know about your new book, The State Capture?
It's essentially an attempt to try to outline why we have been unable to achieve growth and the growth levels necessary to drive development. And secondly, what do we need to do differently? And I think it has been useful as a basis for debate and discussion on broad policy and economic reform in the country.
Mm-hmm. Also, what do you expect to see come out of this new, kind of drive with the New York Stock Exchange, Johannesburg Stock Exchange coming here in the U.S.?
Look, I mean, everybody, the private sector, key players in the economy, key institutions, everybody realizes that for growth to happen, you need solid investment and investment that is in capital formation. So I think everybody is mobilizing resources and is trying to change perceptions about South Africa. It's a difficult process, but economic reforms are generally difficult.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mcebisi.
Thank you very much.
Right. Jonas Mcebisi is South Africa's former Deputy Finance Minister and also President Ramaphosa's advisor.